Whoopi did something yesterday that was such a direct lie about a Turning Point event that I did this past weekend, where she said that Nazis showed up and that Turning Point welcomed them in, that I now have to destroy Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi, you've just become a horrible person. I have to destroy you and destroy their whole ridiculous, faux racist agenda. Yesterday on The View, they had to say something about the Turning Point Student Action Summit. It had no context on the show. These Nazis were at Turning Point, completely out of left field and bizarre. So, all right, take a look.
Okay, so you have to read this thing.
Oh, I've got a legal note. The conservative group...
Sonny normally does this, but...
I know.
Yes.
This is our knockoff lawyer.
Okay.
The conservative group, Turning Point USA, has condemned the group of neo-Nazis and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. We'll be right back.
These crazy bitches have no idea what they're talking about, because the Turning Point people don't like Nazis. They don't like collectivism and racialism. And also, it was very clear that these were actors. These were staged people, not real Nazis. Their flags were brand new. Their faces completely covered. Like, it was just so obvious that these were actors, most likely lefties, who were trying to pit it as if there were Nazis that were supporting Turning Point. And then you get these morons on the media to pretend that's actually true. Joy Behar, who is basically brain dead. She said, where was DeSantis? Where was DeSantis? So where was DeSantis? So why does she say that? What she wants to do is connect Turning Point to Nazis, and they want to connect Ron DeSantis and obviously Donald Trump to Nazis. Where's Ron DeSantis? What do you mean, where is Ron DeSantis? He's not just hanging out with the Nazis outside. You ridiculous clowns. You ridiculous clowns. Whoopi just says, oh, they welcomed them in. Complete nonsense. They were arguing with them and not letting them in. And then every now and again on network television, they have to correct themselves because they are complete abject morons.
Make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazis at the Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical. That you embraced them at your thing, I felt. So they were not in the building.
No, but you know what?
Okay.
You know what? If the so-called Antifa, who are anti-fascist, that's what Antifa stands for, would go there and protest, then Antifa would get a bad reputation. That's why when I hear that Antifa is...
right, but that's not... But let me just make sure that everybody... Because, you know, misunderstanding what people say is very big.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure you... I know they were not in the building, but they were in the mix of people at the thing.
No, they weren't, you stupid bitch. They were not. There's nothing else I can say to these people. They were not welcomed in any way. They were pushed back completely. Clearly what happened there is they went to commercial break and the lawyers freaked out because the lawyers know that they absolutely lied. Oh yes, they were welcomed in metaphorically. No, literally nor metaphorically were they welcomed in. So Whoopi then suddenly was freaking out because the lawyers, they knew they were about to get sued into oblivion. Whoopi's actual apology was worse because she said it, okay, they didn't literally let them in, but it was metaphorically but no, they did not. Here's some video of the Nazis. These are very serious Nazis. These obviously are not LARPing characters or potential plants or leftists. These are serious Nazis. There were a couple people with flags that looked brand new, like right out of, I don't know where you get a Nazi flag. Someone said they had creases on the flags, like these are not like old school Nazis with their old school flags. It was either some false flag thing or some plan thing. These 4 or 6 legit Nazis were in no way welcomed in, metaphorically nor literally. This is what they do with everything. If you are on the right, if you're just not a brain dead woke leftist, they will find someone who is crazy, or they will fake someone who is crazy, and they will try to condemn you for it. And they will say the most insane, dishonest things. You know, it's the same equivalent of me just saying, you know, I'm sure that there are some Nazis that are at the View. There's got to be, right? They're doing this show every day. You'd imagine some Nazis are showing up and sitting in the View audience. And that means if there's one Nazi there, you know how Nazis operate. If you get one Nazi, it's like gremlins in a pool. They start spreading. then all of the audience is Nazis. And then at that point, we're talking about the audio guy, the cameraman, the ladies of The View. I'm talking serious Nazi stuff. Whoopi is an idiot. Whoopi is an idiot. Now she is in over her head. She says endlessly stupid things. Here's Whoopi just a few months ago on the Holocaust.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
Well, they consider Jews a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
but
going
it's
after
not, it's
Jews
not about
ideal race.
But these are two white groups of people.
Well, they go after black
They
people
see
too.
them as white
And they
people.
were
But you're
after
missing the
homosexuals.
point. You're missing the point. The
Yeah.
minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other.
Whoopi ended up getting suspended with pay for 2 weeks for saying that the Holocaust had nothing to do with race. So then, yesterday, she says this lie, and joys in on it too. Where's DeSantis? Wah! You got Whoopi lying. Then they freak out. They come back from commercial. She digs even deeper. And then later in the show now, they realize they've just completely lost control of this thing. Here's Whoopi saying possibly the most ironic thing in the history of television. Irony, you are truly dead.
Look, I realize people just want to be bitchy about stuff. They just want to be bitchy. And I have to stop asking these dumb questions about why stupidity rises to the top and all the mediocrity rises to the top when really smart thinking seems to be struggling to get up there.
We could end the stream right now. You are that, you crazy lady. You are that. You are mediocre. You are not a real thought leader or an interesting person. You are in over your head. You are an actress. The thing with actors read other people's words. They don't really think those things. These people are mostly self-absorbed morons, and somehow they put them on television to say the stupidest things ever. These racial stones that Whoopi casts at her political opponents, this is pervasive in all institutions on the left. It's not just, oh, okay, let's throw DeSantis's name in with the neo-Nazis so we can loosely connect him the way they used to do with Trump. It's so that they can make everyone think if you say anything that is against them, you too are a Nazi. How do we connect sort of the insanity of The View and just accusing people of being Nazis? How do we connect that to more broadly what's going on in society? Well, we found this chyron from CNN yesterday. Dem strategists urging party to label GOP as extremists. They're saying the quiet part out loud. They're not saying these people really are extremists. They're saying we who are paid propagandists have to start labeling them extremists. And we've been doing it for a long, long time. Here is Joe Biden from Joe Biden's campaign launch video during Biden's election, Summer of Love, as everything's burning down in the country because of the Democrats. Listen to the way he racializes everything and accuses people probably of things that are more connected to him.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do
specifically
that, but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call him? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and white
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by.
Joe Biden says that the reason he got back in was because after Charlottesville, Donald Trump refused to condemn white supremacy. And this became the biggest meme online, that Donald Trump said there are very fine people on both sides. Well, there's plenty of video of Donald Trump condemning white supremacy. Here's Donald Trump right after Charlottesville, actually.
We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear.
You also know that right before the line of very fine people on both sides, he absolutely condemned neo-Nazis and white supremacists. When he said very fine people on both sides, he was referring to very fine people on both sides of the debate about what you do with these statues of, say, Confederate leaders. Biden launched his campaign on a lie, accusing Trump of, in essence, white supremacy, defending white supremacists, and racist. This isn't just about Trump, and it's not just about DeSantis when Joy Behar tries to connect him to these people.
Why did President Biden suggest that Kyle Rittenhouse, on trial in Kenosha, is a white supremacist?
Kyle Rittenhouse, I'm told, now has 24/7 security. The president of the United States, with no evidence, called this kid a white supremacist. This rhetoric actually does lead to violence and leads to the destruction of lives. This is what they do with everyone, and that's the point. And more broadly, they never help minorities. They try to make it seem like there's this whole group of people that are out there attacking minorities all the time. These people label everyone else racist. They get as far as they can. They threaten people's lives. They had half the country believing that the president of the United States was a racist when he obviously wasn't. But they also basically belittle actual minorities to the point that they are irrelevant in their eyes.
For example, I'm an Hispanic man. Could I decide I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man and challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
Senator, I'm not able to answer your question. You're asking me about hypotheticals and
well, I'm asking you how you would assess standing if I came in and said I have decided I identify as an Asian man.
If you're going to help certain people based on race, you're going to have to punish other people based on race, which is why Asians have been punished at Harvard. I don't think we should be discriminating against Asian people. The entire Democrat machine does believe that we should. But it's not just their racial stuff. They were defunding the police in Los Angeles, as of course they've been doing in many blue cities and in blue states across the country, which of course hurts minorities the most. And then crime went through the roof. Murder went crazy. Crime, petty theft, all of the bad stuff went up. Rape, the whole thing, it all went up. 81%, this is a staggering number that we found from Quinnipiac polls, 81% of Black Americans do not want police defunded. This was a Democrat policy, much like the economic policies and some of the other stuff that I've been talking about, that has harmed minority communities. Minorities are leaving the left in droves because of the woke. If you disagree with Whoopi Goldberg, you're a Nazi apologist. What the left is doing and the woke agenda, it doesn't help minorities. It doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help minorities. We've got some interesting info here from the Wall Street Journal. Joe Biden began his presidency with a promise to advance equity, which means favoring some races and ethnicities over others to shrink outcome disparities. Like many of his fellow liberal Democrats, Mr. Biden is tethered to the belief that Black upward mobility won't happen without coddling and special treatment from the government. Donald Trump's record complicates such claims. Median household incomes grew by 15.4% among Blacks and only 11.5% among whites. When I say these people are dumb or they're harpies or they're ridiculous or they're idiots or whatever, it's like there's just not much left to say. What can I say about someone like Whoopi when you do that? When she knowingly, think about the machinery around a show called The View, right? Like you're at a network, ABC, where you literally have dozens of lawyers. You have the people who have to make sure they can't use certain language. You have the people with their finger quite literally on the button. I had a friend who used to do this job at a network where if they say something, a word or a phrase that they're not allowed to say, there's a button that can be pressed so they will be silenced or blurred or beeped or whatever it is. There is such control around that thing. So in some ways, it was sort of intentional what they did. They read this statement on The View accusing turning point of being around a bunch of Nazis. Whoopi goes all in on it, knowing nothing about it. The lawyers freak out. They come back from commercials. It's theater. It's bad theater. Like, if it was good theater, that would be gooder. If it was thoughtful theater, that would be nice, but it's just terrible. The View now has had to issue even a further apology because Whoopi's metaphorical apology didn't quite cut it. Here is Sarah Haynes of The View trying to unstep in SHIT.
Everybody, and I have to stop talking because you have that note.
I do have a note. So on Monday, we talked about the fact that there were openly neo-Nazi demonstrators outside the Florida Student Action Summit of the Turning Point USA group. We want to make clear that these demonstrators were gathered outside the event and that they were not invited or endorsed by Turning Point USA. A Turning Point USA spokesman said the group, quote, 100% condemns those ideologies, and said Turning Point USA security tried to remove the neo-Nazis from the area but could not because they were on public property. Also, Turning Point USA wanted us to clarify that this was a Turning Point USA summit and not a Republican Party event. So we apologize for anything we said that may have been unclear on these points.
They still invited Matt Gaetz, though, I would just like to know.
Just at the end there, they still invited Matt Gaetz. So are they going to have to issue another apology? Because the implication, of course, is that Matt Gaetz is a Nazi.
The mainstream media must be held to account, folks. And the only way to do it is exactly like I said, hit 'em where it hurts. Right in the pocketbooks. These people feel emboldened, empowered to say what they want when they want with near impunity. And the only way to stop them is by hitting them right in the wallet, essentially suing them for clear defamation. Nick Sandmann started a trend. Kyle Rittenhouse is next to jump on. Now we have Donald Trump threatening to sue CNN, and Turning Point USA threatening to sue The View, which immediately has them at attention. And even the woke, defamatory ABC's The View immediately responded with a full correction and apology following their garbage reporting. We need to see more of this. This constant defamation and slander that we see from the left, neo-Nazi this, right-wing bigot, extremist, blah blah blah, white nationalist. It's the same garbage over and over again. And it's not an issue of free speech. What they're doing is illegal. Defamation of character, slander, unfairly damaging someone's brand and reputation is a crime, and the left has to be accountable for it, because this is a cheap, disgusting tactic that the left uses, and it's something that they're using more of. You guys remember Tiki Torch Gate during the Virginia gubernatorial election back in 2021. Does this picture ring a bell? Outside Glenn Youngkin's campaign event, 5 mysterious figures showed up wearing the same shirt, cargo pants they probably picked up at Target, brand new baseball caps, and brand new tiki torches, which the media immediately ran with. Tiki Torch white nationalist, very scary people show up at Glenn Youngkin's campaign. Not even a couple hours later, most of these individuals were identified as being Democrat campaign staffers, campaign aides or volunteers and whatnot, and the Democratic campaign office that was connected to this complete hoax had to issue a statement that it was actually a political statement that they were making. They weren't trying to mislead the public. No, of course not. Only did they issue that statement after being caught. This is what the left does. False flag events. Whether they're small and just little blips on the radar, the more they do this, the more it piles up, and it creates an optics narrative, which is exactly what the Democrats do. And very conveniently, and definitely not a coincidence at all, outside the Turning Point USA event, a bunch of supposed very scary extremist figures show up outside the event, all of them covering their face, and the media runs with a slanderous story connecting it to the Turning Point USA event. It was actually a Gateway pundit reporter who was on the ground interviewing these individuals, and nothing about this situation, or this little optics game that these individuals were playing, seemed legitimate. They all had different stories. Apparently they were all not even connected. They just happened to show up. That was their story. All just happened to show up on the same day, completely unconnected and totally unorganized. None of them wanted to show their identities. And it all just screams one word: Fed. It's the same sort of thing that we see with the Patriot Front group and all of this other nonsense. These individuals that look like cartoons, like caricatures that show up, and all of a sudden they become the story, and the media just focuses on that over and over again. It seems like an organized political game that Democrats and leftists around the world, frankly, are playing. We also saw the exact same thing during the Freedom Convoy protests in Canada. There was one individual, completely unidentified, nobody knew who he was, who showed up with a particular flag, and the entire thing became about that one individual in the optics, or the optics message that Democrats were trying to create. It's time to hold these people accountable. They cannot any longer, no longer, should they be allowed to get away with their tactics of defamation, their false flag events. Ron DeSantis is number one everywhere. There's just no doubt about it. He's got it all. An outstanding political track record. His academic and patriotic credentials are out of this world. I mean, just Google it. He graduated from Yale University and Harvard Law School. DeSantis joined the United States Navy in 2004, where he was promoted to lieutenant before serving as an advisor to SEAL Team 1 and being deployed to Iraq in 2007. He's got charisma, and most importantly, he's got backbone. There is nobody who puts the media and puts the press in their place like Ron DeSantis. And this is starting to turn into a series. I mean, every single time Ron DeSantis takes to that podium, drops the mic and just absolutely obliterates the mainstream media and the mainstream press, it's video worthy. The guy is a superstar. Here's Ron DeSantis' most based moments, best mic drop moments of the week. That Ron DeSantis, Ron based DeSantis, is that guy. Here he is again, as the mainstream media creates this phony narrative and starts their new hit campaign targeting Christina Pushaw, Ron DeSantis' press secretary. Take a look at this.
I am not deterred by any smear piece from these legacy media outlets. The only reason they're attacking her is because she does a great job, and she's very effective at calling out their lies and their phony narratives. And so whenever they're smearing somebody, you know that person is over the target, and so they're scared of that. I would be much more concerned with my press secretary if the Washington Post was writing puff pieces about her. Then I would think something was wrong. With these legacy DC, New York outlets is we don't care what you think anymore. We know you peddle narratives. We know you lie. We know you don't care about the facts. And so you can try to smear me or anyone in my administration all you want to. All that's going to do is embolden us to continue moving forward for the people of Florida. And so, ridiculous smear speech, attempted smear, and it'll have absolutely no impact on anything that we're doing in our office.
Trust me when I tell you the Democrats and the Democrat establishment are scared of this guy. And honestly, scared might not even be the word. It's more like mortified, petrified, horrified. Because once again, Ron DeSantis is the guy.
This wasn't like my legislation. Like, I have certain big priorities that we did. This is something the legislature felt strong about. So I start getting asked about this by the media, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, they're getting spun up. I see you know how this works, right? And I was like, there is no way it's true. And I didn't even look at the bill yet. I just knew it wasn't true. And so you actually look at the bill, and it says no sexual instruction in grades pre-K through 3. And so how many parents want their kindergartners to have transgenderism or something injected into classroom instruction? And so I think those are very young kids. I think the legislature is basically trying to give parents assurance that, you know, they're going to be able to go and this stuff's not going to be there. But there's nothing in the bill that says anything about you can't say or this say. It's basically saying for our youngest students, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6 years and 7, do you really want them to be being taught about sex? And this is any sexual stuff, but I think clearly right now we see a lot of focus on the transgenderism, telling kids that they may be able to pick genders and all that. I don't think parents want that for these young kids, and so I think that's what they were trying to do. Now, and I think that's justifiable. I think it's inappropriate to be injecting those matters like a transgenderism into a kindergarten classroom.
Future US President and current Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has schooled an activist journo about a new bill that the media is dishonestly calling the Don't Say Gay bill. But what it actually is it prevents teachers from discussing sexual orientation and gender identity with children in kindergarten to grade 3. That's kids as young as 5.
Asking about parental rights and education, what critics call the Don't Say Gay bill, is on the Senate floor.
Does it say that in the bill?
Know that you support.
Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill, because you are pushing false narratives. It doesn't matter what critics say.
Hold on. It says it bans classroom instruction on sexual identity and gender orientation.
For who?
For
grades pre-K through 3. So 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and the idea that you wouldn't be honest about that and tell people what it actually says, it's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. And so we disabuse you of those narratives. And we're going to make sure that parents are able to send their kid to kindergarten without having some of this stuff injected into their school curriculum.
That's how you handle a dishonest media pushing a narrative. Take notes.
He did it. The madman said it. Donald Trump has said it. Trump has announced he will fire tens of thousands of civil servants and gut the government to sort his agenda if he runs and wins in 2024. Okay, I'm voting for Trump. It's done. That's all I needed to hear, Mr. President. You tell me you're going to fire everyone, and I say, okay, where do I vote? When do I vote? Tell me where to be. Donald Trump is more likely to purge the corrupt crony establishment, to gut the establishment, to get rid of the bureaucratic state. And we desperately, desperately need someone to clean house. So when Trump comes out and says he'd fire tens of thousands of civil servants, I'm like, yeah, okay. The Daily Mail reports Donald Trump has plans to purge the so-called deep state beyond what any president has done before if he runs for and wins the presidency in 2024, and as many as 50,000 government workers could find themselves on the chopping block. Woo-hoo. Come on. Antifa should be screaming and cheering for this. Yes, Mr. President, please fire 50,000 government employees. But they're not going to, because they're saying now, like, Trump's going to fire the employees to install his loyalists. Shut up. He's not going to be able to hire 50,000 people. He's going to fire 50,000 people and then try to hire who he can. Whatever. Trump is planning to use an executive order called Schedule F, which he issued in October 2020, and Biden later rescinded. The order would reclassify tens of thousands of civil servants who were deemed to have some influence over policy as Schedule F employees, which would strip them of their employment protections. It would effectively upend the modern civil service and put future presidents in the position of bringing in their own loyalists or reverting to a traditional bureaucracy, Swan reports. Oh, they're so freaking out. I would love to see it. Drain the swamp. The waters may have been drained, but the monsters are still there. Get it done, Trump. Doing so could strip mid-level government staffers of any sense of job stability and set a new precedent, forcing future new presidents to seek out and install their own loyalists through the bureaucracy. And what's wrong with that? Who elected these people for indefinite positions? Fire them. Policy, whatever. Trump tells me he's going to fire everybody. That's all I need to hear. I tell you, I went off yesterday with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I could tell she appreciated it because this one gets me really heated. They said that Donald Trump was ponying up to dictators. He crossed the DMZ into North Korea with no security detail. Ponying up to dictators. He had no security, and he walked into what is officially enemy territory. It's a sign of good faith. It's one of the bravest things I've ever seen a president do. How dare they? Look, Donald Trump has his problems, but I want to stress that to all of you. Share that with all of your liberal friends when they're like, he's trying to be friends with a dictator. Good. The DMZ is dangerous. You see these videos of North Korean troops trying to drag South Korean troops across the border, people being shot trying to flee North Korea. Trump willfully and without security walked into that country because he wanted peace. Good for him. I dig it.
Here's another bogus narrative that lefties are buying, once again without question. John Cooper, one of the biggest clowns on Twitter, writes, Ron DeSantis signs bill requiring Florida students and professors to register their political views with the state. I covered this in a video that I also recorded today, so I won't go too much into detail, but as I'm speaking here, I'm actually going to edit in all of the responses, and man, lefties, just no question, they just buy this stuff. This is a debunked story. It's actually a story from 2021, and it was debunked in 2021. It somehow resurfaced, and they're all falling for it, including Twitter checkmarks with 1 million viewers, like John Cooper. Even mainstream journalists are ridiculing John Cooper. Jay O'Brien from ABC News writes, this viral post is inaccurate. Further, it references a law passed in 2021 and makes a claim that was debunked that same year. Even the article it links was written in 2021. Look before you retweet. They just buy the narrative. And here's the next one that I want to show you guys. This one's probably a more relevant example because it's actually involving this whole Joe Rogan, Donald Trump thing that the left is celebrating. This individual on Twitter named Gabe Sanchez writes, Trump doesn't seem happy with Joe Rogan right now, releasing a doctored false statement from Truth Social. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States, hearing that lion Joe Rogan doesn't want me on his podcast. He said he was asked more than once to have me on. Lies. He asked me many times, but I said no. He would be lucky to have America's greatest president as a guest. It would be record-setting and a smart business move for Spotify. Lion Joe would rather have second-rate president like gutless Ron DeSantis on his low-rated show. Now, first of all, you just turn your eyes a little bit and you see Gabe Sanchez's Twitter bio, actor, comedian, satirist, and instantly you put two and two together that this is a fake tweet meant to be left-wing comedy and satire. The entire comment section is nothing but people who are taking this as a real Donald Trump post. It is so clearly fake, but they want to believe it. They have this caricature in their mind of who Donald Trump is, and so they'll believe anything. Are you guys paying attention yet? If you needed any more proof for just how corrupt federal agencies are, then look no further. Donald Trump is officially under investigation by the DOJ. We've been calling them endless investigations, the endless investigations into Donald Trump for a reason, because it actually just never ends. Here we go again, folks. We're definitely gonna get him this time, based on all the garbage, non-evidence, based on everything that the Democrats don't have, all the lies and all the garbage testimony during the January 6th sham hearings, which should have ended in a big fat nothing burger, well, instead now progresses into a full-on investigation into Donald Trump and his associates in relation to January 6th. Hillary Clinton's emails? Who cares? Hunter Biden's various federal crimes? Who cares? Hillary Clinton working with foreign spies from the UK and Russia to unseat and undo a duly elected president? Who cares? Joe Biden's potential involvement in corrupt actions, peddling Washington influence for foreign nations to the tune of millions upon millions of dollars? Who cares? Non-evidence, no crime, bogus testimony, and all the January 6th nonsense surrounding Donald Trump, oh well, that's definitely going to be investigated as we now head into 6 years, literally 6 years of Donald Trump investigations. The DOJ has been weaponized to attack Donald Trump and stop him from being able to ever run for president again. And notice how this DOJ investigation is being announced with such perfect timing right ahead of the 2022 midterms, and right as Donald Trump has essentially confirmed that he is running for president again. Coincidence? I think not. Donald Trump is being investigated by the DOJ in January 6th criminal probe report says. Where is the probable cause? Where is the evidence? Adam Schiff claims that the evidence leads to Donald Trump. But how can he possibly say that when just the other day he was questioned on whether they have evidence connecting Donald Trump to the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers at all? Well, what did Adam Schiff said? Well, he said, we'll be presenting new evidence in the fall season. So essentially, this investigation is starting before any evidence has been presented to show a connection. This investigation is being launched on the hopes of maybe finding something, or rather conjuring something, through probably another bogus witness testimony that's instantly going to get debunked. I mean, this is corruption in action. It doesn't make sense. I mean, think about the double standard. There's legitimate evidence to actually suggest connection with Democrats and crimes committed. With Donald Trump, there's been absolutely nothing to suggest any kind of connection to any crime. Even the left-wing partisans at CNN a couple weeks ago basically admitted it. The point is that even left-wing partisans at CNN are admitting that there's no evidence, yet there's seemingly enough for the DOJ to launch an investigation based on this non-evidence. Here we go again, folks. folks. Another 2 years of endless, moronic, non-stop anti-Trump witch hunt investigations.
Let me pull up this story we got from the Washington Post. Justice Department investigating Trump's actions in January 6th criminal probe. People familiar with the probe said investigators are examining the former president's conversations and seized phone records of top aides. What they don't say is Trump the target of this criminal probe? No, the Washington Post just says Trump's actions. It doesn't even say they're investigating Trump himself. This is never ending. I mean, Russiagate was a farce. It was a hoax. How come none of these people are being held to account?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, high-ranking individuals signing off on this stuff. On January 6th, the people who were let into the building, many of them had no idea. I'd say most of them probably had no idea there was fighting happening on the other side. Cops opened up the barricades, fanned them in, doors were opened, cops fanned them in. One guy was acquitted of all charges because of that. That guy did not know that on the other side of the building, couldn't see it, people were beating cops and fighting and throwing things. So what happens is, hindsight, the Democrats look at the most egregious moments, show everyone that footage, and then say, everybody in that building, that's them right there. And people go, wow.
We, being the Biden administration, we have sent billions to Ukraine to protect their borders, even as we have opened our own to the world. Why are we doing this exactly? Well, as Joe Biden has told us repeatedly, doing his Winston Churchill imitation, we're doing it to protect democracy. But of course, the irony here is Ukraine is not a democracy in any recognizable sense. The Ukrainian government has banned media outlets that are hostile to it. They've also shut down opposition parties. They arrested the main opposition leader. That's a democracy? So because we allowed that to happen, in fact, we funded it all, now the Ukrainian government has decided that they can impose censorship in our country. The Ukrainian government has issued a blacklist of so-called Russian propagandists, Americans. That list includes Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, Tulsi Gabbard, who's serving in the U.S. military, and Glenn Greenwald, among many others. Tulsi Gabbard is also on this blacklist. She's also someone the Ukrainian government says should be censored. She serves in the U.S. military. She served in the United States Congress. She ran for president. Now she's joining us, and we're happy that she is. Congressman, thank you so much for coming on. What's your reaction to finding yourself on this blacklist?
I see the hypocrisy, Tucker. The hypocrisy of this blacklist is, and frankly, why the American people should care about this is the Biden-Harris administration and the Washington elite from both parties are continuing to be willing to impoverish the American people and people around the world and push us closer and closer to nuclear war and Holocaust, all to protect democracy and defeat autocracy in Ukraine. The danger of this, again, goes to the cost that our leaders are willing to exact as they continue this facade of a push for so-called democracy and defeat autocracy. The whole thing is so hypocritical, and we need to hold our leaders accountable for it.
I have to ask you, since you served in Washington for years, I know you're not generally aligned with Steve Bannon, or at least in the public mind, but you watched him get convicted last week of contempt of Congress for not cooperating with the January 6th committee, while many others, Eric Holder, Lois Lerner, have not been put on trial for ignoring subpoenas from the Congress. What's your reaction to this?
It shows the double standard in Washington, but more dangerously, it shows how this administration is so willingly weaponizing our Department of Justice to act as their own personal political hit squad and going after political opponents and turning a blind eye to people on their own team. This is incredibly dangerous because when you look at what's at the heart of our democracy, it is the rule of law. It is our ability as Americans to be able to trust that these public institutions are serving the public interest and not favoring whoever's in power versus who's not in power. That no matter our political affiliation, how we use our free speech, the color of our skin, how we worship, none of these things should matter because we should have faith that our justice system will treat us equally and fairly across the board. This weaponization of the Department of Justice is incredibly dangerous and sets a dangerous precedent that undermines this very foundation of our democracy.
I was in San Bernardino. There was a group of people protesting, holding up signs. And they had all stopped and they were talking to each other. And I walked up and I was like, hey, how's it going, guys? And they just looked at me like, some of them like, oh, hey, what's up? And I was like, I just wanted to ask you guys, like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And then someone walks up and starts screaming, Mike, check, Mike, check, Mike, check. Instantly, all of the activists start repeating in unison, Mike, check. That's what you're supposed to do. When I tried talking to people, they immediately start yelling, Mike, check, stopping the conversation. And the woman said, she goes, do not, and they all go, do not, and she goes, talk to anyone, and they all repeat, talk to anyone. They are trying to trick you. And then she says it again, and they all just mindlessly chant. When people are in a zombie horde controlled by a zombie lord, I don't know what to tell you, because I've been in private with them, and they have cognitive dissonance, and they experience physical pain when you provide information that could shatter that.